So I'm sure you're aware, or at least most of you are, that it's been a little bit over 4 months since the beginning of the Silver Squeeze. It started all the way back on February 1st of 2021. And the Silver Squeeze initially started over on Wall Street Bets, which then turned into Wall Street Silver over on Reddit. And it was a group of people that got together with the idea that if you bought up as much physical silver as possible, you could put a lot of pressure on the availability of physical silver. In other words, you could create demand that is greater than the current supply of physical silver. And originally it did work. Right after the Silver Squeeze started, there were a lot of a lot of supply problems, and you were looking at 4 to 6 weeks before you could even get an order of silver in. In other words, where it was before the Silver Squeeze, you could order silver and it would ship like the next day and you get it in a few days. After the Silver Squeeze, the same order would take 4 to 6 weeks just for it to ship to your door because they didn't have enough to fill all of the orders. But it's been 4 months. And what has happened since then? Well, the first thing that happened as a result of the Silver Squeeze was that we saw a little bit of price jump. So the price did go up initially, although it did come back down. But what went up and didn't come back down was the premiums. And if you aren't sure what a premium is, that is how much you pay over spot. So in other words, over what silver is trading for on the market, on the COMEX, that's what you pay over that number to be able to buy silver. So for example, before the Silver Squeeze, you used to be able to get 1 ounce generic silver rounds for around $1.25 to $1.50 over spot. Right after the Silver Squeeze, you were looking at the same exact silver for +7, which means 7 over spot and more. Now, those premiums, even though the supply has definitely came back in other words, you can now place your orders for silver and have them pretty much immediately within a few days. Now that the supply problems have pretty much cleared up and there's silver available on every single one of these sellers, the premiums have yet to come back down. And that's what we're going to be talking about and showing you in today's video. I went out and I did a little bit of market research and got you all the data that you need so you can see what the premiums look like then, what they look like a little over a month after, and what they look like today. But before we get into it, if you're new to the channel and you want to learn more about silver stacking, gold stacking, and more, do me a favor, go down below and make sure you're subscribed and click the bell so you don't miss any future video notifications. All right, so here we go, guys. We're going to get into it. But before we do, 2 things I want to say. First, when I was going to the websites and I was looking at, for example, silver rounds, I was looking for the lowest price that they had available in stock today. I was not looking at the items that were out of stock because sometimes they do not update the price on those until they get them back in stock and available for ship. So those may be old numbers that aren't relevant in today's market. Secondly, when we were looking at it, we were always looking at the 1 to 19 ounce price. And that's because the majority of people that are buying aren't buying 20 at once or 100 at once. They're just buying 5 or 10 to get put into their stack. And so that's the numbers that we are looking at here. Of course, there are discounts if you buy multiple at once. If you buy in bulk, you do get a little bit of a price break. So here we go. First website that we looked at, this is today's numbers. We went over to SD Bullion, and as you can see, they had spot at the time that I took the screenshot at $28.12. They had generic silver rounds, their choice of design. This was the lowest one they had on their website for $32.89 an ounce. That is a premium of $4.77. In other words, you will pay $4.77 over spot to get silver rounds from SD Bullion at the 1 to 19 level. The second site that we looked at, and we looked at this site in all 3 of these dates, we have APMEX. Now, APMEX had these at, they had spot at $28.18 with their price of $33.67 per ounce, which puts them at $5.49 per ounce over spot for their generic 1 ounce silver buffaloes. And again, this was the best price that they had for generic silver 1 ounce rounds on their website. And then the third website that we are looking at today, we went over to Provident Metals. Now, Provident Metals, at the time I took this snapshot, had $28.16 for spot with a price of $33.45, putting them at $5.29 over spot per ounce. So how does that compare? The question is, of course, how does that compare to what they looked like in March or what they looked like in February? Well, here's the chart. So SD Bullion on 2/1/21, they had rounds at $7.67 over spot. Now, as you can see in March, that premium dropped to $5.48. And then since March till today, it dropped again to $4.77 over spot. So as you can see on SD Bullion, the premium has continued to decline from $7.67 to $5.48 to $4.77. And as you can see, they are the cheapest of the 3 here. APMEX had it at $6.99 on February 1st, which was actually odd because usually they're more expensive than SD Bullion, but they were cheaper that day. Now on March 5th, they had it at $5.99, and then it has dropped once again to $5.49 over spot as of today. And then Provident Metals, we had it at $5.65 on February 1st. It actually went up to $5.83 on March 5th. That's why it's in red. And then it came back down to $5.29. So as you can see on generic silver rounds, the premiums are starting to subside, but they're still way, way higher than they were before the silver squeeze. In fact, incredibly higher, especially given the fact that silver is pretty readily available in today's market. So the second product that we looked at back in February, back in March, and today are Silver Eagles. Now, one thing about the Silver Eagles, keep in mind that we are talking about their in-stock and available cheapest on their website, Type 1, ready-to-ship Silver Eagles. So we're not looking at pre-orders of Type 2s because I'll be honest, the pre-orders of Type 2s are a little bit cheaper. We're looking at what we can order and have shipped to us today. And the first thing we have, and this is from JM Bullion's website, we had Silver Eagles, and this is the cheapest ones I could find on their website, 2015s, at $42.23 for 1-19, which is $14.09 over spot. That is very, very high. That is actually higher than the other two. I'm just going to tell you out right now. That is an incredibly high premium for 1 ounce Silver Eagles at $14.09. And this was the cheapest they had. 2021s were even higher. Second website that we went to was APMEX. Now, APMEX was a little bit more reasonable, although still very high at $11.99 over spot. They had spot at $28.16. You could order these for $40.15, which is a premium of $11.99 over spot from APMEX. And then finally, the last one we looked at was again SD Bullion. They had Silver Eagles at $11.89, so that is still high, but still $11.89 over spot for random year 1 ounce American Silver Eagles, spot at $28.14. You can order these for $40.03 a piece at the time, $11.89 over spot. So how does that compare back to March? How does it compare back to January or February? Well, I'm going to tell you, this one's going to shock you. Let's take a look. As you can see, in February, SD Bullion had them at plus 1070. Then they went down to $9.59 in March. Now they're up to $11.89. So the premium has actually went up on Silver Eagles from SD Bullion from back in March. Now, if you look at APMEX, they were $11.99 in February. They went up to $13.99 in March and then came back to $11.99 today in June. And then if you look at JM Bullion, they were $10.64. They dropped them to $8.99 over spot in March. And then in June, $14.09. So as you can see, the premiums on Silver Eagles today are more expensive than even what they were on February 1st at the beginning of the silver squeeze. In fact, outside of APMEX, they're even more expensive than they were a month later. So why is that? Well, one would say that there is a supply shortage of Silver Eagles, except again, most of these sites I'm able to order them. So I don't know if that's the case. In fact, I've looked at some wholesalers, and most wholesalers have them in stock ready to ship. That being said, the wholesalers that I looked at were over $9 over spot, and this is wholesale prices to the dealers who then have to turn around and resell them. So what is the takeaway from today's video? Well, I'll tell you what it is from me. Just looking at all the data, looking at just these 3 websites, and I can tell you there are dozens more websites that have plenty of silver available for shipping today. In other words, you can order it. They will probably ship it today or tomorrow. There's no 3 or 4 or 5 week delay like there was back in February, like there was back in March. Yet the silver premiums are still pretty high. In fact, on Silver Eagles, they've even went up. Let's be honest, they've went up. And while Silver Eagles really do have a reason for, if you want to call it a shortage, part of that is because the U.S. Mint is no longer printing Type 1 Silver Eagles, and that's why the pre-orders on Type 2 Silver Eagles are actually lower than what the Type 1 Silver Eagles are for today, because the U.S. Mint will no longer print the Type 1 design. The Type 1 design is retired. It is done. There's no more coming out. What's out there is out there. That being said, there's already billions of them because they've been being made since 1986. There's no shortage of Type 1 Silver Eagles in the market today. But, you know, even if you look at generic rounds, which there's plenty of those coming out, there's plenty of it being mined and minted, the premiums are still high. Well, it's like anything else in capitalism. Every one of these companies is totally fine with selling silver for $4 or $5 over spot and banking that extra premium that they weren't getting pre-February. And until one company is willing to start really pushing the envelope and start lowering the price to a point where all the other websites just can't get orders because everyone's going to A and B website because they have it for $3 when everyone else has it for $4.50 and over, I don't think you're going to see this decline. I mean, even if you look at the wholesalers are still selling for plus $3.50, and Silver Eagles are still selling for almost plus 10. I think it was like $9.65 last time I looked at like Upstate's chart. You know, until people stop paying the price, they're going to continue to sell it. Or until one of the websites has the gall to lower the price $1 or $2 and force all the other companies to do so as well, otherwise they'll lose business, it's not going to go anywhere. And I don't know when or if that's going to be anytime soon, but I mean, I think it's become very clear that there is no longer a shortage of physical silver for order for investment. And so, yes, everyone should be ordering silver, but at the same time, you know, what is it going to really take for these prices, for these premiums to come down? And I don't know. I don't think people are going to stop ordering it. I don't think the guys on Wall Street Silver are going to stop ordering anytime soon. They are still under the impression that they're going to continue to be able to squeeze the price of silver. I just don't see it happening. I don't, you know, unless we have another push like February 1st, which I don't really want, because honestly, between me and you, I think the premiums would go up even higher. I don't really think anything's going to happen. I think the premiums are probably going to remain for some time, but we'll see what happens. I'll probably revisit this in a couple of months. We'll see where it is, you know, say August or September. But other than that, guys, that doesn't mean to stop stacking. It just means do some research and find the best price that you can get it at. And, you know, don't overdo it. Just stack. Just keep stacking what you can afford to stack. So that's what I have for you today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, help the algorithm by going down below and leaving me a comment. Hit the like button and all that stuff. It really helps me out. And we'll see you next time. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I did leave a video above you can check out if you haven't seen it yet. I also want to give a huge shout out and a huge thank you to my awesome channel supporters scrolling right there on the right hand of the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.